Welcome to the Emporium, my name is Michael. Today I'd like to look at the Honda Pioneer 500 after 2 years of use. I have around 1400 kilometers on the machine and I did a 1 year review, obviously last year, and I just wanted to kind of keep that going. And after 2 years, how's the machine faring? What are my thoughts on it? So I have made some modifications to the machine and I did cover them after the first year, and I'll recap on them briefly now, just so that I can give you an update and you can see some other small modifications that I've made since the initial round of changes. So what do I primarily use my Pioneer 500 for? So I use it for trail riding in these sorts of conditions. I use it the majority of the year or until the snow becomes too deep that it's just not feasible. I also use it for hunting, so it's kind of a split utility sport type of scenario that I use it for. And this is where the Pioneer 500 really shines. It's not a performance-based machine. It really is something that will get you from A to B in a comfortable manner, but you're not going to get there very rapidly. Some of the things that I love about it is the form factor. I love this bench seat. I love the sitting position and just the general 50 inches wide. I can fit this in the back of my 8-foot box on my F-150 truck. And that's a big bonus to me. Not having to haul it on a trailer is a big thing. The other things I like are the paddle shifters. This is a 2015 model, so it doesn't have the auto gearbox, which from 2016 onwards they do. I would like that. That would be a nice upgrade, but unfortunately I don't actually have that on this. Overall, I really like the machine. It's inexpensive and it does a good job for what you pay for. On the downside, here are some negatives. I guess the first one would be is the engine is small, so it's a sub 500cc engine. It's not particularly fast. You don't really notice it that much until you're traversing from one place to another, and the top speed I believe is about 64 kilometers an hour, which isn't really that fast. So the other major disadvantage is the open front differential. I've learned to drive within the capabilities of the machine and not to rely on obviously having a front locker, which would be excellent. If those two things could be fixed, I believe Honda would have an amazing machine that would probably outsell the majority of the 50-inch wide units. So they compete with things like the Razor 50-inch, and I think there's the Wild Trail or something similar. Both are very different machines. They're more orientated towards sport, where this is really the only kind of crossover utility sport. So I guess if you want to go to a bigger machine, the other direct competition to this would be something like the Ranger midsize, but you're going another, I think it's another 6 inches wider, and you're going a little bit heavier and perhaps I think a little bit more expensive too. So that kind of summarizes the machine and what I use it for. But I'll just walk around and show you how the machine looks after 2 years of use and 1400 kilometers. So one of the things I have changed is I upgraded the tires from a 24-inch to a 25-inch. And these were takeoffs from a Can-Am that I traded for a couple of bottles of brandy, I think it was. I would prefer to have the 26-inch Maxxis Bighorns if I was going to upgrade again, but I think I'll use these until they wear down a little bit more. Not the best, but they seem to do pretty good. I do have the winch, and that's the Terra 3500, and I like it very much. I did dent the front of the skid plate at one point, but I managed to actually punch it out pretty good. And if you look closely here, I've just noticed something that wasn't there when I first started this drive. And I can see there's a piece of a stick stuck straight out of the CV boot. So I'm just going to pull that out. But you can see how exposed that one CV boot is. All the other ones seem to be pretty much protected. This is the first time it's happened, so I guess I'll be making a video on replacing that at some point. Doesn't look like there's too many shards inside. It looks complete. It's not all mashed. So I think I'll probably just tape that up in order to get me back. And I won't ride it any further today. So the front of the machine has fared pretty good. There's no major scratches, no dents. It's quite rugged, I would say. The fenders are quite high, so they don't really come into contact with too much. And because it's the camo pattern as well, it doesn't really show the wear too much. The roof has really worked out well. This has worn much better than I expected after 2 years. The only thing that did happen was the front piece of Velcro, where it attaches to this bar across the top, that kind of failed. So I produced a small plastic hook that I 3D printed and just glued that into place with some fabric glue and just kind of held it in there. The seats have also worn pretty good. No problems there at all. Pedals are in good shape. Everything else is good. I still like my little steering knob of my steering wheel. Doors have done well. You also have this rock slider type of where the roll cage actually goes down past the bottom of the doors. I do have some corrosion where the powder coating has failed in certain places, but it's not too bad. It doesn't seem to be getting much worse. Again, I've never stored this machine outside. It's only ever spent nights outside when I've been using it, but even then it's covered up. I did put this tray on the back as well. It's the same size as the frame underneath, but it seems to give me a lot more room for some reason. I just made it out of some OSB and some timber, and it works really well. I can actually stack stuff in much better than not having the box. So on the rear of the machine, again, no real problems at all. It's all intact. It's all very tight still. There's no corrosion on the muffler. I've had no mechanical problems with the machine so far. So again, there's a few scrapes that I probably need to cover over and just make sure that that corrosion doesn't get any worse where the powder coating's been removed. The doors have held up extremely well, and generally the plastics have been very, very good. I can't complain about that at all. Again, the rock slider type roll cage at the bottom works excellent. It's not going to crack like they do on some other machines where they have plastic across that bottom part and you have to buy the external metal ones. So that's really well thought out by Honda. So as far as servicing the machine, I've done all of it myself apart from the first service that was done at the dealership. So I've changed the oil, I've done the plugs, I've changed the filter. It's pretty inexpensive to do. I've also changed the differential gearbox oils. I do believe in a good quality maintenance schedule, whether it's something you follow by the manufacturer or something you do for yourself. I never trust that the machines come out of the factory perfect, whether there's loose bolts or someone forgot to fill up the differential and you wait a certain number of hours or kilometers until you change it and find out it's empty or too low. So one of the things I've always done right from the beginning with any machine is check all the fluids. Just give the machine a once over, check all the nuts and bolts. The guy or lady at the factory may have been having an off day, may have been called away halfway through the job and it just got missed. So right from day one, I checked all the fluids, made sure the differential levels were all good. I don't think the differentials were due to be changed, but every 2 years, I'll do it anyway. So you can get an ingress of water into the differentials. They do have breather pipes, but you can still get moisture that builds up in there. If you go through a deep puddle or a big river with a river crossing, that's a possibility. So I always try and keep on top of the maintenance. It pays off, it really does. You can spot problems early on and you can correct them before they fail while you're out in the in the wilderness here, which could be a big problem. So that leaves me with just one final task before I leave. I'm just going to put some duct tape around that CV boot and make sure that none of the grease starts to escape before I can drive back to my truck. I think I'm also going to design a new guard that's going to cover this and make sure that doesn't happen again in the future. When I come to replace a CV boot, I'll be sure to actually make a video and I'll share my experience with you so that if you come to replace one in the future, you'll have a record of what it takes. So until next time, take care. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like my videos, leave me a comment, maybe a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.